Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Tylynn Ludwig, the owner of Tylynn Nutrition Therapy. Tylynn is a registered dietitian, certified eating disorder specialist, and sports nutrition pro with a passion for helping people heal their relationship with food. Tylynn works through an intuitive eating and health at every size lens, and she's all about busting nutrition myths, challenging diet culture, and bringing empowerment and joy to food. When Tylynn is not transforming lives through nutrition, she's currently training for the Ironman Women's World Championship in Kona, which will take place this October. And for those of you who are not familiar with what that is a very long-distance triathlon with swimming, biking, and running. Tylynn is a powerhouse of a woman, and we can't wait to share her deep nutritional knowledge with you. So turn up your volume and let's welcome her to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are super excited to welcome Tylynn back to our show today. We had a really good conversation in episode 1 about just the basics of nutrition and kind of Tylynn's philosophy in all of those things. If you haven't had a chance to listen in on that conversation, definitely take a look at that or listen at that. In this episode, we're going to be talking about intuitive eating and what that means and kind of diving into all sorts of different topics around that. So I think this is going to be a really good conversation. Okay, so let's, first of all, what is intuitive eating, Tylynn? Let's talk about that.
That's the big question.
Yeah.
What is intuitive eating? So intuitive eating is a process to help you get out of your head when it comes to food and body image, move away from rigid external rules, and eat according to your natural appetite cues and satisfaction. So it's helping you sift through all of the information that you may have received around food about how you quote unquote should eat and actually listening to what your body's telling you.
There's so much information out there. It's just crazy what we are taking in and then what we're trying to figure out, what works best for us. And so I really like this idea of intuitive eating. So can you combine these types of things? I mean, what is intuitive eating versus, keto or paleo or these other kinds of diets out there? Can you kind of touch on that? Is there a difference there or is that the same thing?
Yeah, because I think those diets that Drea mentioned are more of like you're cutting certain foods because you don't think they're beneficial to your body. But then of the foods you have remaining that you're eating from, are you using intuitive eating with those foods? Or is that totally different than diet culture?
Yeah, completely different than diet culture. So that's a really good question. Maybe we should just define what a diet is versus intuitive eating, because I said intuitive eating is a process of understanding your body and going through all the thoughts and rules that may have been promoted to you over your lifespan. So diets typically involve cutting out some sort of food, potentially an entire food group, multiple food groups, and they're very rule-based. And these actually are in contradiction with intuitive eating because intuitive eating is all about letting go of the rules and trusting your body and trusting that you're going to be okay and you're going to learn how to eat normally and naturally. You don't need those external rules to help you live a healthy lifestyle.
So when you're talking about listening to your body, how does this, I'm assuming this is, like you said, it's a process, and I'm assuming it's something that almost needs to be taught and learned and developed, because when you say listen to your body and I say, those chips are calling my name,
I'm listening to my body.
To that ice cream every night. How does this play into, what's the difference between intuitive eating versus like cravings?
Mindless eating, cravings, yes. So generally, if you are fueling your body adequately, and that's why I put that big asterisk there, are you fueling your body adequately throughout the day with nutrient-dense foods? You are likely to have more cravings, and you mentioned at nighttime, because this often happens for a lot of people, right? Maybe they're underfueling. They skipped breakfast, and then they're eating lunch. They have dinner, but then by the time they get to the evening, they're starving and they are craving something. And what do we crave? We crave foods that are highest in energy. And if we go back to my first episode where I said, what is the food that contains the most energy for our body? It's carbohydrates. There are going to be foods that are rich in carbohydrates. We are not craving broccoli. We are not craving salad. No, we're craving the food that maybe when we skipped breakfast, we should have been having a balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. That eventually catches up with you later on in the day, right? If it's a craving, we can generally have, a small bowl of potato chips and feel satisfied. If we have that small bowl of potato chips and we're still wanting to snack afterwards, that may be a sign of more emotional eating.
I was going to say habits have to do with this too, I would think too.
Exactly. A lot of us are on autopilot when we're eating. We're not even thinking about it. You look down and you're like, oh, there went the bag of potato chips.
Yeah, while watching TV, right?
Right. If you were to slow down and actually enjoy the taste of that potato chip, you're most likely going to eat less of them. And again, this is a lot easier to do and to practice when you've had enough nutrition and good nutrition earlier in the day. Right? If you're starving by the time you're going to bed, that's setting yourself up for eating based on the cravings.
Well, it's your sign, right? Like if you're starving before bedtime, that's kind of your sign to think about what you've been eating throughout the day and if it was really the best choices, right?
Exactly.
And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking about how freeing this feels, right? To be how free, food freedom, right? And that's the ultimate goal. But in reality, as you're saying this, it almost seems like if somebody is listening right now and they're like, I am constantly craving certain things. I don't feel like I have a handle on my nutrition. I'm just in survival mode, right? Maybe I'm not super educated in this. It seems like this could be an overwhelming process to start because they're like, okay, I need to make sure that my meals are balanced, going back to what we talked about in episode 1 and like a balanced plate. And then therefore, because I'm eating balanced meals, my cravings should be changing, but I'm also, how do I know if I'm emotionally eating? And then, like Drea said, I have habits to break. So there's just like a lot of moving pieces here. So where does somebody start in this process?
One step at a time. That's where they start. You do not go out and run a marathon after only running a mile, right? You build up to that over months. It is the same thing with the process of intuitive eating. I'm feeling really out of control with eating at nighttime. Maybe I'm really going to focus on having a solid breakfast. Whatever you decide is what you should focus on initially and get really good at that one thing for a week or 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, and then you build on it.
Or even cutting down soda, like the sugar and stuff like that. Like I think a lot of people, we know what is a good choice for our bodies and what's not. And when we're looking at like sugar or excess carbs or things like that, there are things that we can do very small that can make a big difference.
Exactly. And when we are just inundated with guilt and shame around our eating habits, for some people who feel completely out of control, they undersell themselves. They're like, well, that's not going to do anything if I just eat breakfast. It is a process. We didn't get here overnight, and you don't get to intuitive eating overnight. It can take years for some people, right? I told you with my own journey, I struggled with food and body for 4 years, and then it took me just as long to get to a place of complete acceptance. So we don't get here overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But if you take it one step at a time slowly, and you build and you celebrate your progress and your wins, that's how we get out of this. And that's how we gain control over food and not food controlling us.
And I think we live in a society that is constantly screaming at us that we're doing things right and we're doing things wrong, and you need to try this, and this is not good, and eggs are bad, but eggs are good.
Oh my gosh, everything. If you want to put anything, it's bad and it's good all at the same time. Just, it's so confusing.
So I mean, personally, as I'm listening to this, I'm like, I think if I was needing support in this area, I would definitely be reaching out to someone like you, because it would just be overwhelming and you need accountability. Like we talked about in our first episode about your different programs and how you will meet with people weekly to help them meet their goals, which I think is amazing. But one of the things that society is screaming at us a lot is fasting. And so I was curious on your thoughts on that. I'm going to go ahead and guess it doesn't align with intuitive eating, because when you wake up, if you're feeling like you need some fuel, you should be fueling. But is there any value in fasting? Is that something that you think nobody should be doing? Who is it appropriate for?
Or the difference in your head between meal timing and fasting, because sometimes there's a definition difference there too for some people.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because the research is conflicting. I think I'm really interested in longevity, and there is some research out there saying that fasting can help slow down the cellular aging process, right? And that really piques my interest. I'm like, maybe I should be fasting. But then at the same time, I know about body cues and how when we go too long of a period of time without eating, it's setting us up for binging. And that is because I think of hunger and fullness on a scale, okay, or a meter, if you will, where 0 is the ravenous, bare, primal hunger. This is the hunger that literally prevents us from starving, and it is ingrained in our body just because we're human, okay? Evolutionarily, we evolved to have that stop kick to say you need food when you get to a 0. And then on the other end of that scale is a 10. 10 is like Thanksgiving stuffed, okay?
Oh, yeah.
We all know that after 3 servings, and then we just take a nap on the couch, right? Okay, so generally I tell people we want to live around the 2s to 8s or 3s to 7s, in that range. But there are times when we get to the 0s and the 10s for whatever reason, right? But when we're fasting, we're intentionally going to get to a 0. And then when most people break their fast, then it gets to the 10. And it kind of undoes a lot of the things that we were trying to do in the first place of reversing our age, because we just gave our body a huge hit of all of these foods when it's actually better at processing food over an extended period of time. But some people who may benefit from fasting, I would say recommended by a medical physician and overseen by a physician who specializes in this for certain medical diagnoses. I don't think the average person should be fasting. So this may be someone who is potentially, this is life and death for them, that they need to be incorporating these practices. But the average person, I would say you can still be healthy without fasting. Right? And for most of us, it's going to set us up for cravings, binge eating, because we went way too long without eating. We got to the 0, and then we're like, to heck with it. I'm just going to eat whatever.
Yeah. No, that was a good explanation. And I appreciate that you have, it may be appropriate for some people, but to be healthy, you don't have to buy in to all of these things. But you did mention cues, your body giving you cues. Are these specifically cravings where your brain is saying, is that a cue, or are there other bodily cues to be looking for when your body is trying to tell you you're missing something?
I would also ask too, in addition to that, are some people's cues broken in that they have been, and I don't know if that's the right word, but in that they have been eating so poorly for so long that they don't, their body literally, their hormones are off. They literally cannot understand what their body is telling them.
To answer the second question, yes, there are people who don't have normal cues. And that's a lot of people in diet culture, because they're like, I'm going to go super long without eating and ignore my hunger signals. So after we go a long period of time without feeling hungry, your body stops sending the signal, because they're like, well, here I am. I'm hungry. I'm knocking. Nobody's answering the door. So I'm just going to stop knocking. So you stop getting hungry at normal times. So that's why often eating on a schedule initially is what I recommend for people. It can take 6 months to a year of consistent normal eating for people's hunger and fullness signals to reemerge. Think about that. 6 to 12 months for our hunger and fullness cues to normalize if we're caught in the cycle of dieting and diet culture and all of that, to really truly trust those signals. And that's why often it's helpful to be working with a professional to help you get back to that place. And then you're on your way, you're flying, you're intuitive eating, and you can trust your body. But some signs of hunger outside of just like feeling cranky or craving food, so like irritability for one can be a sign of hunger. Just normal stomach rumbling, right? Most of us recognize those overt signs of hunger, but other signs of hunger can be difficulty concentrating, right? If you're in that window of like, maybe you had breakfast at 7 a.m. and then you're trying to make it to noon or 1 to eat, but you notice you're just not focusing as well at work, that could be a time for a snack in between. So difficulty focusing, it could be just feeling less energized. It could be thinking about food more frequently. It could be feeling a little bit nauseous even. So those cues are different for every person, and it's something that I talk about with each of my clients to help them understand, like, what is your body experiencing? Because how I feel hunger could be completely different than somebody else. The other thing I'll say about lack of hunger and fullness cues is that some medical conditions or eating disorders. So we'll talk about that when we get to the eating disorders episode, but there are some people, if they're neurodivergent, that they may not actually experience hunger or fullness signals. And so they need some outside help and a schedule and some structure to help them.
So as somebody gets deeper in their journey of intuitive eating and they're able to reestablish those cues and start to notice these bodily cues, will they get to the point where if they're feeling irritable or a little brain fog, how do you know what to actually eat then?
So that goes into listening to what you're actually craving. So do you like things that are salty? Do you like things that are sweet? Do you like things that are crunchy? Do you like things that are smooth? Like, what's your individual preference for certain flavors and textures? So for example, like my mid-morning snack, maybe I want like a yogurt with some granola because I like the smooth and the crunchy and the sweet. But somebody else might want cheese and crackers because they want something more salty, right, in the morning. So if initially people don't know what they want, I might recommend certain things and we try it, and then they learn over time, oh yeah, this is what I prefer at this time.
Will intuitive eating also help with weight loss potentially? Like if they're desiring to lose weight, that's oftentimes when people are jumping onto a diet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're told that that's going to help them. If you can really get in tune with your body, will your body's cues be telling you how much to eat and what your body actually needs and help you get to that steady state weight that you're looking for? Or is that kind of a whole different area where you need assistance and thought?
This is a really great question because a lot of people think they're going to go to intuitive eating to lose weight. And if that's our mindset already going into it, it's already getting to a diet because we're going in there with the end goal to be shrinking my body size, not I want to improve my relationship with food. And it is true, though, that some people do lose weight when they practice intuitive eating because they were so out of control with food and they're starting to listen to their body and then they naturally lose weight. But that's not always the case. Some people stay the same weight and some people may even gain weight practicing intuitive eating. But weight loss is not the goal because it's always coming from a place of challenging diet culture. So do you guys know what I mean by diet culture?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So diet culture refers to this whole set of societal beliefs, practices, norms that promote weight loss and thinness as the ideal body type. And I know as a dietitian that thinness does not always equate to health. But a lot of people think, if I lose weight, I'm going to be healthier. So it's a really big paradigm shift to think, I'm going to be healthier because I have a healthier relationship with food, even if I didn't lose a single pound.
This is a different perspective.
It is a different perspective.
It's important.
I do want to just hit on this because I know that especially with women, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, my knees hurt, I have weight, I really feel like I would feel healthier, I would feel better for numerous reasons, even outside of the societal judgment, right?
Yes.
For physical health, I would like to lose weight. What would your approach be in guiding them?
I would still help them with intuitive eating, and I would help them with movement and recommend, movement within my scope of practice. If they need a personal trainer, maybe I hook them up with a personal trainer, get them that support system that they need, and let them know they might be doing all the right things and maybe that number is not budging, and that's still going to improve their health long term. Because guess what? Your cells still feel the benefits of, we're going back to cells, okay? They still feel the benefits of eating well and exercising. Yeah. So that's all related to like health at every size research, which shows that your physical fitness, regardless of your weight, is actually more protective of developing chronic issues and chronic health conditions long-term, regardless, again, if you lose weight or not. I'm not saying that you're not feeling pain in your knees. I'm saying I'm going to help you in the best way that I can and support your health as it is. And if you don't lose weight, like that doesn't mean that you're not a failure, or that doesn't mean that you are a failure, excuse me. It means that there are a lot of things that impact our weight that we are not taught, right? Genetics. Did we have a history of weight cycling? Were you on those yo-yo dietings? If your weight goes up and down over time, you are much likely to be at a higher body weight in the end if we were to never diet at all. And this is why I do this, because I work with 70-year-olds that have been dieting their whole life. They're at these higher body weights and they want to lose weight, but really what got them there in the first place was dieting. So the thing that got you there isn't the thing that's going to get you out of it. Right? It's learning to respect and love your body as it is, even if that means dealing with chronic pain. And we're going to do everything we can to help alleviate that chronic pain. Because guess what? You can strengthen your leg muscles to help with knee pain. That doesn't mean that you might not have less pressure on your knees, but it means that you're going to be stronger, right? That's why there's physical therapy. There are other things that we can do for those things besides weight loss being the end all be all.
Well, this was a whole new perspective from what y'all have been seeing on Instagram, isn't it? Thanks, Tylynn, for sharing all about intuitive eating. I think this, freedom of food. That's exactly what we're going for with this episode. Really quick, though, before we hop off on this one, I do want to share your social media accounts with everybody because you are active on there. So where are you at and how can they find you and follow you?
Yeah, so everything is all under Tylynn Nutrition Therapy. So it's the same on Instagram. It's the same on Facebook. Again, it's my name, Nutrition Therapy. It's kind of long. There's 3 N's, but it's consistent across
That's what's
all
important.
platforms.
Perfect. And just to mention again, in case you did not listen to episode 1, which that was going back to the basics, I highly recommend you go back and listen to that. But Tylynn is offering 10% off any of her services for our listeners. So if you want to take advantage of that, just email her, reach out to her on Instagram, however you want to contact her, and just let her know that you heard about her on the Motherhood Alliance podcast. And we're coming back with 2 more episodes, diving into some specific topics. One of them is going to be about eating disorders and kind of the truth behind them, how to recognize them and support people through them, as well as we're going to be talking about athletes and workouts and supporting yourself and your nutrition through those as well. So stay tuned for our next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.